So I apologize to Trish. Trish is her sister-in-law. So beautiful song, thank you. I put her in here right now because I was looking around and noticed that I hadn't included her already. So we've got one sibling left, which is PK. She was the youngest next to Kristi.
I'm going to start in 1972. That's the year that Kristi and my mom and I moved to Florida for my mom's health. She needed to be in a warm climate. And my dad stayed behind in Kentucky working for a couple of more years, so it was just the three of us for a couple of years. We moved into a furnished apartment, and it was furnished except it didn't have a TV, and we needed a TV right away because the Summer Olympics were about to start, and we are an Olympics watching family. So the very next day after we drove down there, we went to Sears and we got a TV and we hooked it up and we had our 3 channels and one of them ran the Olympics. And that was when Kristi and I and millions of girls across the country and around the world fell in love with Olga Korbut and gymnastics. And we started taking lessons right away. And from that point on, for the next 10 years or so, you were just as likely to see us walking on our hands as upright. We started off at the same level, beginners, but we found out that both of us had a certain natural ability, and so we started to progress. And then Kristi continued to progress, and she left me way far behind in the dust. And when she and her friends would come over and we would put on these pretend competitions in the front yard, always in the front yard, because you had to time your tricks right to make sure cars were coming because you wanted the maximum audience. So we would have these competitions in the front yard, and after a while, I got stuck being the judge because I wasn't good enough to compete anymore, and I became a coach because I was a much better teacher than I was gymnast. But Kristi was amazing, and I don't know, she was still doing tricks, up through her 40s, so I don't know if anybody here has ever seen her do a round-off flip-flop or a back round-off, as her brother likes to call them. But she had the combination of grace and skill and beauty it made it a pleasure to watch. And she used those skills when she became interested in dance, as Joel had mentioned. And I don't know if y'all know, but there was a time when Kristi actually considered trying out to become a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. And there was that whole life as a doctor thing to consider, though. So she was considering it, though, Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, doctor, Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, doctor. And, eventually the medical field won out, and Kristi, went to college and then to medical school. She did not tell us that she was going to medical school. She had told me that she was going into physical therapy. She had done some physical therapy work in college, and she was interested in it. So when she told me that she'd been accepted into medical school, I said, "You mean the physical therapy program?" And she said, "No, medical school," because physical therapy was her backup plan in case medical school didn't work out. But as you know, medical school did work out, and again, she excelled. And it's gratifying as a sibling to see so many of her patients here today saying such wonderful, wonderful things about her as a doctor. So some of y'all may have noticed that Kristi and I bear a certain physical resemblance. People have always told us that. In fact, when we were in our 20s and we used to go out, people would come up to us and ask us if we were twins. And I would always say, "Oh no, Kristi's much older than I am." Even though, of course, that was hilarious because I'm older than she is. I'm 4 years older than she is. And Joel is 5 years older than I am. And Ricky's older than Joel, and Sandy's older than Ricky. So it wasn't supposed to be this way. Kristi's the baby. And she's not supposed to go first. And she was too young to go at all, but certainly she wasn't supposed to go first. And it's hard for us to understand, how this could have happened. And it's hard for us to realize that we're going to live the rest of our lives without her. And that her baby, Brian, has to finish the job of growing up without his mother, the person who loved him most in the world. Kristi had a good life. She had challenges and she had struggles, but she was surrounded by love her whole life. And a big reason that she was so surrounded by love is that she so freely and so generously gave her love. She was extremely generous with her love, and all of us in this room are better for having experienced that.
So again, we're here in celebration of Kristi's life. As PK said, she was a baby. It shouldn't have been this order. It's hard for us to understand what happened. It's hard for us to accept what happened. But all I know is that God has a plan. And I don't know what the plan is. I do know that I have to accept the plan. And I do know Kristi was a Christian. And for Christians, we know that she's in heaven. And I like to think that she was greeted by Mom and Dad. Welcome to the better life. So when we cry, we need to be crying for us and what we've lost, not for Kristi, because she's in heaven. We're going to have one last song from Trish. So, Trish.
When we were talking about what music to do for today, and I was going over it with my brother, for some reason, when I had been pondering it, this song came to mind. And when I brought it up to him, he goes, "Oh, that would be great, yeah." And then you can tell the story behind why this song is important. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do, and then I'm going to attempt to sing it and not crack up my voice. And when Ricky spoke, you heard him talk about the strays that got drug in. Well, I was one of those strays. During a very dark time in my life, my wonderful brother and his wonderful wife gave me a home. They took care of me. They loved me unconditionally. And helped me get my life straight. And it was a long haul. But that I can stand here in front of you today, the woman that I am, has a lot to do with Kristi and with Jamie. Okay. Music has always been very important to me. It was always a very big part